One, welcome back to a brand new podcast. Definitely not the same podcast that we were doing before with different clothes. We wouldn't defraud you like that. No.
No.
Would not
Not
do
how we
that.
roll,
No,
But maybe it is.
it's not.
Actually, people are gonna be confused now. They're not gonna know if if this is the same day or not. I don't even know anymore. Maybe this. I don't know. I
Make
don't
your
know.
make your
Oh, guys.
best guess.
That's it. Make your best guess. Um,
Yeah.
so for May, we had a book called Essentialism, which is there it is. Look at Mr. Scotty's screen there,
My
which
favourite
is a
word.
book that was yeah, it's his favorite word. Those of you who are following our Twitch, essentially,
Yeah.
um, which is a book that I was a bit hesitant to read because I don't know, Essentialism. It doesn't sound that exciting, but it had really good reviews on Goodreads. And I was like, all right, this could be a good book to do a podcast on. So let me read it. And when I read it, I was pleasantly surprised. There's a lot of excellent information in here. And it's really about, what this book is essentially about, is, you know, it's about people that put too much on their plate, basically, or they're trying to do 100 things at once, where they're so busy but not productive,
Yeah.
let's call it. Busy but not productive. This can also go in terms of poker. Like, let's say people that are looking at such specific spots in the solvers, but are not doing things that should be done.
Yeah.
Like, for example, studying more, turns and limp pots that come up very often, like all kinds of different textures. Maybe somebody's looking at you know, ISO pots, check raising turns. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm looking at, or like 3-bet pots, check jamming, turns, which is like a spot that essentially never fucking comes up, right?
Essentially.
So this book is about it talks about how to prioritize what's going to be best, what's going to be the most productive. So anybody that puts a lot on their plate, or anybody that's unsure of what to focus on, this book really is like a big slap in the face for those kind of people. And without further ado,
Yeah.
let's get into it. All right, let's get into it, Scotty.
All right, 8.5, so a little bit further up the jack stack scale than the last one,
Yeah.
and a more practical one, which
Yes.
suits me a little bit better. I won't lie. All right, so straight in there. A, don't say yes simply to keep everyone happy or to please someone if it's something you absolutely don't want to do. Yeah, nobody respects a yes man, do they? Nobody respects a yes man. Yeah, I think we're all prone to doing this at some point in our lives, particularly people who are married. I think this is something that's part and parcel of marriage, to be honest, is people doing things that they don't necessarily want to do, which is actually one of the things I think I love about my relationship with my wife, is we don't really have that kind of pretense going on, especially her. Duckers is the number one person in the world. If she doesn't want to do something, fuck you, she's not doing it. She
What about you? Do you do the same? Like on the other?
I'd say less so, but I yeah, less so. I'm not as good as Duck.
Cave in a little bit more. You're a little bit
Yeah,
more lenient, let's
yeah.
call it.
Um, I'm not the best at saying no. Duck has accused me in the past of being something of a people pleaser before, and
Hmm.
I really dislike confrontation. So
Yeah.
I will frequently do something I don't necessarily want to do to avoid a confrontational situation. But yeah, I think this is generally pretty sage advice, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
So that's interesting you mentioned that. Like you used to work at a job too, right? So you worked at a job. So like let's say
mhm.
for example you're working at this job
Yeah,
and your boss, let's say you have a lot on your plate. You're already overwhelmed. You got all this shit. You're spinning all these things,
yeah,
and then your boss says to you, okay, Scott, we need you to take on this project and that project. You know, this is like the part where people will say yes because they don't want to let their boss down, but they're like, dude, I already feel so overwhelmed. I'm
yeah,
already have so much on my plate. So this is saying like, or it's something that you just don't want to do. And maybe it's not even in your maybe it's not even in your job description at all. He's just asking you for a favor. He's
Yeah.
just like, go pick up a coffee for me after work, and you're just like, I
Yeah.
kind of want to do that. I'm gonna get home, hang out with my kids, like whatever it is.
Yeah.
If it's something, but this is something like that you absolutely don't want to do. This means like something that you definitely do not. Let's say Duck is like, you know what? I really enjoy going to see the ballet. And this is, you're like, dude, I don't want to see the ballet at all. And then you're like, you know what? It'll make her happy, so I'll go.
Yeah.
This book is telling you don't do that.
Okay.
If it's something you absolutely don't want to do, if it's something you kind of don't want to do, probably just, if it makes sense, just do it. But if it's something you absolutely do not want to do, and it's not really, in this book, it's talking about more of a business standpoint, obviously not a relationship standpoint, but
Yeah.
that can be, it goes hand in hand. But if it's just something you absolutely do not want to do at all, it takes courage and vulnerability. Sometimes you got to be like, you know what, I actually don't want to do that, I don't.
Okay. So there are definitely some caveats to this where sometimes I think you have to do what you don't want to do. Like if the police are like, put your hands above your head, like you should.
Yeah. I mean, you don't want to take this too literally,
Yeah.
but this
Especially in
is
America.
this is actually geared towards like the people pleasing kind of people, and like the people that are yes men.
Yes.
They're yes men, and like they just want to, or like for example, let's say for example, Scott, you have a huge goal this
Hmm.
week. You're like, let's say you're saving up for something. I don't know. You're saving up for something. You're in grind mode, and you've decided that you're going to play poker today, right?
Yeah.
That's your decision. Like, I'm going to be grinding 8 hours today. You've made that decision, and then your dad calls you. Your friends call you, like, hey, like, I wanna hang out and like shoot the shit. And then some people can't say no in that sense, or he's like, no, actually, I've already committed to playing poker today.
Yeah.
This is like that's one example as well where some people, their dad calls, their friends call, they're just going to be like, yeah, even if they don't want to go, because in that sense, like let's say you're saving up for a goal, you really want to play poker, that's what you want to do that day, but you just say yes because you don't want to let down your friends, but it's something you actually really don't want to do. You just want to grind instead or whatever it may be. This is just telling you, set that boundary and just be like, you know what? You can say no in a polite way. That's the thing is like, I think sometimes people get confused. You don't have to be like, no, I'm good. You can just be like, you know what? I already decided I was going to grind. I'm already in my grind zone. Let's get together some other time. That's
Yep.
another way of saying no. It's a very nice way of being like, you know what? Fuck off. We'll deal with this later kind of situation. But
Yep.
yeah, I think we've got enough on
Establish
that
that
one.
one.
Let's get.
All right, cool. So point B, give me 6 hours to cut down a tree, and I will spend the first 4 hours sharpening the saw. Yeah, it's kind of an old one, that isn't it? It's yeah, just a kind of fancy way of saying preparation is key.
Yes.
Preparation and efficiency is ultimately what you want to take away from that one.
Yeah, like how does this tie into poker, would you say?
Well, I mean, this is all about being prepared for the games that you're playing in. So, for example, if you told me to crush MTTs, for example,
Hmm.
right? You said, Scott, I want you to be an MTT crusher now. I would probably spend like 2 or 3 months where I would study 8 hours a day and maybe play 2 to 3 until my saw was sharp enough to cut down that particular tree. You know, that's kind of how I interpret it. Like it's just being about it being fully prepared for whatever task that you're about to undertake so that you can do it correctly, efficiently, and in the case that I'm talking about, most profitably.
Yeah,
Yeah.
efficiently is really the word too. Like it's like doing it in a way that it makes most sense for your time.
Yes.
So like, let's say they give you like an unsharpened saw and you're trying to cut down this tree, you're not going to get anywhere. It's like the way it ties into poker too is like, let's say for example, we have some guys on our team. Let's say for example, hypothetically speaking, there's a $5 spin and go player.
Mm-hmm.
And this $5 spin and go player is playing 300 hours a month trying to get to his goals,
Yeah.
right? He's playing six tables, 300 hours a month, six tables at 500, at
Yeah.
five, sorry. $5 games. He's playing six tables and 300 hours a month. He's trying to get to his goals. He's like, his goal is like, let's say, to make $100,000. We're talking hypothetically here.
Yeah.
And he's trying so hard. He's working so hard. How much harder can you work? Six tables, 300 hours. That's insane.
Yeah.
Right? Think about it. That's absolutely insane. But he's not getting anywhere because what he should be doing is studying, playing less tables so that he moves up in stakes, right?
Yeah.
So that's essentially sharpening the saw, right? Because if you're trying to reach $100,000, essentially, yeah, if you're trying to reach $100,000 and that's your goal. Let's say, for example, you're playing $5 games.
Yeah.
You can work 700 hours a week, 700 hours a month. You're not getting anywhere.
Yeah.
It's not the most productive thing to do, and that's what this book kind of gets into. You can be busy or you can be productive.
Yeah.
You got to learn how to use your time to its best. So if you are playing $5 games, obviously you don't want to be playing six tables. You want to be focused on studying, learning, moving up the stakes,
Yeah.
which is essentially sharpening that saw. So when you move up the stakes, you start to reach your goals easier, right? Instead
Yes.
of just like running, it's like, for example, if somebody gave you like, let's say they gave you like 24 hours
Mm-hmm.
to or let's say they gave you like 3 hours to get from where you live, York, to get to London. If you run, it's not going to work. You got to find a better, efficient, way to do that. But like some people, they're just running and they think they're doing. That's the thing, is they think they're making all these strides because it feels like you are. You're
Yeah.
running. You're so busy. You're like, oh, I'm going to get there. I'm going to get there. And somebody else is like, you know what? I'll spend the first hour trying to find a car or somebody to give me a ride so I can get into a car and go there instead of running and, seemingly being busy and productive, but not really,
Yeah.
So you want to sharpen that saw. You want to efficiently move towards your goals and not in a way where you're like working insanely hard, but you're working insanely smart. There's got to be a balance between smart work and hard work.
Yep.
Okay, you're not going to run yourself, hundreds of miles and make it to your destination. You gotta get into a vehicle. You
Yeah.
got to really. So that's my advice to anybody that's playing this and anybody that's watching this. I mean, and is playing like $5 games, $10 games. You got to realize you don't want to be there for a long time. Your goal should be to improve and get better and play higher stakes. That way you can, reach your goals faster. Don't try to start running as fast as you can at $5 playing 600 hours a month because it's still not going to really get you that far. There's only so far you can go if your saw is not sharpened. You can't cut down a tree. You just can't. It doesn't cut down. You're working so hard, you're sweating, trying to cut down this tree. It just doesn't work. You need to sharpen that saw.
Work smarter, not harder. That's a good phrase, that one.
Yes.
About keeping yourself efficient. Just you're going to laugh when you see this back, by the way, Jack. I don't know why it offered me the subtitles and I clicked yes, and then everything that you said came up on this. Your whole face got covered there by your compelling speech.
Oh, that's good. That's even better.
Don't be confused when you see this back. Covered up your biceps for a minute there. Sorry, pal.